Today, I want to talk about how pharma reps actually make $200,000. I'm going to give you the numbers that nobody is talking about, and I want to make the case in this podcast for pharmaceutical sales. I also want to speak a little bit about oncology diagnostics and genetic testing. These are two separate industries, both outside of the operating room. Both frequently are misunderstood, and both are capable of generating the kind of income and the kind of career that most people in this space, they never talk about openly. And that's exactly what we are going to do today on this podcast, because I have been helping people to interview well, to break into this industry, and they are landing high-paying jobs. I'm not here to say that medical device is bad. I'm not here to say that the OR is the wrong path, because a lot of our members have landed jobs in the OR. But I want to be a balance, and I want to be honest, and I want to give pharma and diagnostics their fair defense, because I do not think they have always gotten it on the internet. And that starts right now. My name is Dave Sterrett. I'm the founder of Medical Sales U. I've worked in pharmaceutical sales. I've worked in oncology diagnostics, precision medicine. I was ranked number 1 nationally at Sanofi out of 90 reps. I launched products at Johnson & Johnson. I moved a territory that was really struggling. From 78 in the country, moved it up to 24 nationally. I went to Foundation Medicine. When I started, I was number 1 in my region, number 14 nationally. I'm not sharing that just to impress you. I have over 10 years of experience. I'm sharing this because I want to give a context. This is not just me being in the industry for 3 years. This is me being in the industry, both in medical device, but also in specialty pharmaceutical and oncology diagnostics. I was looking into coaches back at the end of 2023. I was thinking about getting into this, and I started listening to what others were saying. I came across some good people, and some of them were great communicators. They were doing some good work. But I heard some of these coaches who were often dismissive of pharmaceutical sales. The message was that pharma is not real sales. The device is where the serious money is. The pharma reps are just dropping off samples. They're just taking they're just taking doctors' lunch. And I remember thinking there, and I think, I said to myself, these guys are only thinking about entry-level primary care. I mean, it's like me making a generalization about an associate rep in the OR. So I thought, these coaches out there, they're not thinking about oncology. These device reps who are like, oh yeah, I started out in pharma. They're not thinking about oncology. They're not talking about what it's like to walk into a major cancer center and have a conversation with a medical oncologist to be able to understand the conversation at the tumor board, to make a case for a precision medicine product that could change a patient's treatment pathway. This is a completely different world. And it's not the only path, but in our program at Medical Sales U, I would say this. This is one of the things that makes us different. About a third of our members are landing in specialty pharmaceutical. A third are in device. They're in the OR. Now, some are in capital equipment. They're not in the OR all the time. But then the other third is in this genetic testing, oncology diagnostics. At Medical Sales U, we coach people across all these areas. And so I want to help you. That's why I would love for you to come in, be a part of us, whether it's surgical device or orthopedics or capital equipment or spine. We have leaders in the industry come in at Medical Sales U. But I believe, and it's the reason I started Medical Sales U, is that oncology and specialty pharma are being neglected by the so-called coaches on the internet. And the most FDA approvals in pharma are in this area of oncology. That's where the most money is. And one of the great ways to break into cancer is through diagnostics. We've helped people who've come to our program. They've listened to my coaching. They've landed jobs at Guardant Health, Tempus AI, Exact Sciences. I personally got started at Foundation Medicine. And these are good for some people because, look, if I had it to do again, I was 22 years of age. Yes, maybe I would have gone into the OR, right, in the operating room. But right now I have 4 kids and I want stability. I want a high base salary. I like a work-life balance. And I also want to be challenged intellectually with a sophisticated conversation. And so for me and for some of our members, that, those normal working hours, pharma is a great fit for many of them. It's not for everybody. So we want to talk about this. Our members, I will say this, at Medical Cells, Medical Cells U, our members, the lowest that base salary that anybody has ever landed in pharma is $95,000. That's the floor. And we've had members come into our program. Now, some of these have had a little bit of experience in device, but they've landed a base salary in pharma at $200,000. We just had one land a base salary at $200,000 at Sanofi. That's just the base. That's not the bonus. That's not the benefits. We've had members land offers at AstraZeneca, at Pfizer, at Boehringer Ingelheim, Bristol Myers Squibb. These companies are good companies. Now, also, let's just be honest with our program. I'm not telling you where to go. I'm just helping you to broaden your awareness. And that's what we do when you join our program is people are like, I'm not sure which one I should go after, device or pharma. We help you. We guide you. We ask you questions. And then sometimes you start interviewing with both. And now you have multiple offers and you can negotiate. You can then have the freedom to choose where do you want to go. And guess what? It's never perfect. The whole process is never perfect. But if you break into an entry-level pharmaceutical sales position, your base salary will be anywhere from like $95,000 to like $120,000. That's just the base. That's what we've seen with our members. Now, I know across the board, there's others who are a little bit lower, a little bit higher. That's what we've seen for those just breaking in. Now, maybe you have a specialty. Maybe it's cardiovascular. Now you're calling on specialists. Sometimes those base salaries are a little bit higher, anywhere from like 110 to 165. But then you get into oncology, and the base salary for cancer is anywhere from 150 to like 235, 230. That's just the base. My first pharmaceutical sales position was at Sanofi. I came in at a base of 165. It wasn't the absolute lowest, but it was higher than some. I wasn't at the very top either. I knew reps were making more than me. But when you add your bonus, your car, your equity, your benefits on top of those base salaries, and I'm going to break these down layer by layer, we're talking about a good high-performing rep in oncology who's making anywhere between $200,000 and the top reps are making well over $300,000 in total compensation. I want to show you exactly how this breaks down. I want to give you balance because, we've had coaches come in device who are making $700,000. You're not going to see that in pharma. But there are paths for you to move up in leadership. And I just want to say that you're not going to see those top high paying positions. Now, let's talk about entry-level pharma. Entry-level pharma, that's often a volume game. This is when you break in, you're often dealing with physicians. Yes, sometimes you are leaving samples, you're building those territory relationships, you're educating the nurses, you're meeting with pharmacists. But what we see on the internet is people who start out their career and then they move into device, and sure, they're making a lot more money in device than those entry-level pharma positions. But if you start out your career in device, for a lot of people, those entry-level positions are associate roles. And you're not selling either. You're carrying the bags. You're setting up trays. You're in the OR very early mornings. You're grinding it out for sometimes a whole year, maybe 2 years, maybe even 3 years before you get your own territory of your own. And so in this process, it's going to be hard, right? So we've had people come in medical device, top performers, making $500,000, sometimes close to $1 million. They are real, and I respect them. But for every one of those that we introduce you to, I have about 4 or 5 medical device reps come to me who are completely burned out. They've been in the OR for years, and some of them are not making over 175. They have brutal hours. They don't have good benefits. Anytime they blow it out of the water with their quota, they make it's so hard the next quarter. And so let's just have for fair balance, right? And then you have other people in pharma who never are able to, they stay stuck. They never move into like oncology. And so what we do in our program is we have tenured reps reinventing themselves. And they are, we do have people breaking in. We have those, but we also have tenured reps who want to get into a new specialty. And so that's what we want to guide you in at Medical Sells You. So the criticism that you will hear in so many videos from med device reps is that pharmaceutical sales is not real selling. Now there is a component where, you don't see that direct result. You have to wait. You have to be patient. A doctor says they're going to order your product and you don't see an immediate impact and you have to follow up. Doctor, you said you were going to send me a patient and I was just curious if you're able to see them, right? But it really is selling. And that's what we go through in our program. Now, some of the criticism says you're just doing lunches, you're just dropping off samples and brochures. I think in primary care, there's an element that you can wing it, you can get lazy, and you can do some of that. But you will never be a top performer, even in entry level, if that's what you do. Now, your goal is to eventually move up into specialty pharma, like in oncology. And let me just share with you a little bit what it actually looks like. When you're having these conversations with these difficult to access accounts, these doctors, you need to be extraordinarily organized. You need to understand the NCCN guidelines. These are the National Comprehensive Cancer Network clinical practical guidelines that oncologists use to make treatment decisions. You need to know where your product fits in, what the treatment pathway is, what is used in first line, second line. What does the label say? What does the data show beyond the label? You need to understand the pivotal clinical trial that led to the FDA approval of your product. Not just the headline. You need to understand the study design, the patient population, the primary endpoints, the overall survival data, or the progression-free survival data. Now, when you're interviewing, you want to learn this and study this. Why? Because you're interviewing, people tell me all the time, look, I'm just not landing the job because I don't have experience. And I asked them, I said, hey, do you happen to know, how this drug is administered? Do you understand the competition? Do you understand the patient's journey? What it looked like before this drug existed? Do you know what the treatment landscape was before the approval changed? And so you need to understand this in the interview process, but also once you get the job. You need to understand the mechanism of action. How does this drug work at the biological level? Is it targeting a specific mutation? Is it blocking a receptor? Is it an immune checkpoint inhibitor? Is it an antibody drug conjugate that delivers a payload directly to the tumor cell? Every product in oncology has a unique mechanism, and you will be expected to explain it clearly and credibly to a physician. These doctors have sometimes MD and PhD by their name. And you will have to have a conversation to share how is that drug administered. You will need to explain this to the pharmacists, to the nurses. Is this drug given through an infusion? Is it an oral pill? Is it subcutaneous injection? What is the dosing regimen? You'll need to understand like the adverse reactions. This is the safety profile. Okay. And you want to be able to communicate this to the oncologists, to the nurses, to the physician. You'll need to know a little bit. You won't, as a rep, you won't get into details about price. That will often be another role. But you'll need to have some awareness about coverage. And you will collaborate with others, with other people on your team. These drugs are expensive. We're talking about treatments that cost tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars per patient per year, which means that you will be collaborating with a field reimbursement manager to navigate prior authorizations, payer coverage, right? Copay assistance, patient access pathways. You are working with pharmacy teams. You're making sure that your product is properly integrated into the electronic medical records so that when a physician writes that order, the workflow is seamless and the patient actually gets the drug and they don't get stuck with an unwanted bill. So you'll work alongside your MSL, your medical science liaison. This is a PhD or a PharmD or an MD on your scientific team who engages with physicians on the deep science, on clinical trials, on off-label questions. These are questions that you as a commercial rep cannot answer. So you and your MSL, you will operate in parallel. You as the rep will bring the commercial message. They bring the science. Together, you will serve those physicians. And you're also working with what some pharma companies call thought leader liaisons. Now, this position, different companies have different titles, but these are a bridge between the commercial side and the medical side. They convene advisory boards. Okay, so this is where physicians will come, they'll sit down, they'll give honest, candid feedback about how they are using this drug in their practice, what questions they may have, what they're seeing in their patients, whether it's lung cancer, pancreatic cancer, whatever the indication is. They are providing feedback to the company, and that allows, that TLL to go back to their company and share these insights. Now, this collaboration is what you will do as a specialty pharmaceutical sales rep. You are collaborating with a cross-functional team. You're navigating these complex ideas about clinical, reimbursement, scientific conversations. You have to be extraordinarily organized. So, for all the critics out there in med device who are these sales coaches who say that this is not real selling and you're just, doing lunches and dropping off samples. That is not the case. And keep in mind, this is where there's a lot of innovation is in specialty. So let's talk about the numbers. Layer by layer, base salary. So your first pharmaceutical sales job. At Medical Sells You, our members who are breaking in, their base is anywhere from $95,000 to $125,000. Now, I do see these jobs posted, and sometimes companies will list something lower, like $80K, or higher, $160,000. But for us, our members who are brand new, it's their first pharmaceutical sales job. Our members are breaking in $95 to $125,000. And again, I'm just coaching how to interview well, how to stand out in the process, how to tell your story. And it's a community. A lot of networking is taking place in our community. Then you'll get into something of specialty. Maybe it's cardiovascular. And all of a sudden, that base will move anywhere from like 110 to 165. You're calling on specialists at this point. Then the pay goes up even higher if you get into cancer oncology. The base in oncology runs between 150, 150,000, and $230,000. My first oncology position, this is in the past, okay, this is like 6 years ago. My base was 165 when I first broke into pharmaceutical sales. I was in diagnostics before that. I always made over $200,000. Now, I was not at the very bottom of that range. I certainly was not at the top. I was kind of like right in the middle. And I was coming in as a first-time oncology rep with a track record of performance in cancer diagnostics. So I did have some experience in oncology. So that's level one. Layer two is your bonus. Let's talk about that. In pharma, your bonus is tied mostly to your performance against your goal. Most companies pay quarterly. At entry level, your target bonus is typically 10 to 20% of your base. Your mid-level, it moves to 20 to 30%. In oncology, it's often 30 to 40% of your base. Many times you might have your goal for that bonus is $60K a year. That's what I saw my first job. I've seen $45K before. So it just varies. Now that's just average. Now, if you blow it out of the water, you do really well, you can make much more than that. When I hit number one nationally at Sanofi, remember Q2, they doubled up. There was a key account contest, and I won it right before we sold to Regeneron. And there was a structuring bonus. And so I got the bonus, but then there was additional incentives on top of that. And so what am I saying here? Pharma reps will get a bad rep on the internet, but you can have a good career making $200,000. Many of you, I believe, can make that year 3, year 4. So let's talk what else comes with it. Your car, your expenses. Every legitimate pharma role comes with either a company car or a car allowance. If you have, your car allowance, I've heard about anywhere from $600 to $1,000. You think about, let's say you have $700 to $900,000 a month. We're talking about between $8,000 to $11,000 a year. I remember when I got my first job, I had a Hyundai Sonata, brand new, and I remember taking that car allowance and I paid it off my first year of having that car. Then I had a Lexus and I paid that off the first year. I took that extra money because you'll have a gas card. Often they'll reimburse you for tolls, or they'll give you a great company car. We had a member in our program just recently. It was in one of the large pharmaceutical companies, and he came in at that. It was going to be his first sales job. He's has had some clinical experience, but first full line sales rep. And this pharma company offered him a base of $95K. Okay. But he would have gotten a Tesla. He would have gotten stock. He would have gotten equity. He turned it down. He wants more. And I'm like, well, that's up to you, right? Like, that's totally up to you. But I thought it was a good offer because it's not just the $95K that he's making. And this is his first sales job. You got to think about the benefits as well. Okay. Let's continue. Okay, we've talked about your base salary. We've talked about your bonus, company car. Layer 4 is equity. This is what people aren't really talking about. But sometimes you can get restricted stock units, RSUs. These are shares of a company that are vested over time, typically 3 to 4 years. At your mid-sized biotech, for your field reps, this can be anywhere from $5K to $20K or more a year. And so every company is going to be different, But if this company grows, like there's a major FDA approval on the horizon, these grants can appreciate and they can dramatically increase. Often companies offer an employee stock purchase plan, the ESPP. Now, this allows you to purchase company stock at a discount. It's typically like 15% below the market price. And you take these two things, right? You can build wealth. Another thing is the company match with the 401k. I remember looking at my 401k match at just one company that I was there for less than 3 years. I was at Sanofi for 2 years, 8 months. And I took a glance at my 401k. And it's like $167,000. Now that's why, it's going to be different for you depending on how much you put into it. But I always try to max it out. And now I have these at multiple companies, right? And they all build up wealth long term. And you want to keep in mind the entirety of your benefits. I'm not a financial advisor, but I will, I have people coming to me frequently. And the one that they're coming to me most frequently is real estate. Real estate is your ups, your highs are really high, your lows are really low. And they come to me and they say, well, I want to make such and such. And I say, well, you have to keep in mind when you're a realtor, you have to cover your own gas, your own company car. Now you might be able to write it off, but you're still paying for it. You still have to cover the costs. You take out a client for lunch, you're paying for that, right? You do marketing, you'll have to pay for that. You want to invest in your 401k long-term, you pay for it, right? And so that is the security of this industry of being a pharmaceutical sales rep. No, you're not going to get super wealthy overnight being a pharma rep. But if you stay consistent, long-term, you can build wealth. Think about 10 years. You get into this industry of being a pharmaceutical sales rep. You're reasonably frugal with your money. You max out your 401k and you perform well. You get promoted, maybe you get into either managing people or you move into a specialty like oncology. In 10 years, your net worth will be worth $1 million for the majority of you. And for some, even more. So you always want to put money into your 401k. I'll make Dave Ramsey proud. There's going to be that company match. And you stay consistent with this. Look, I believe in entrepreneurship. Some of you want that. But I believe that there is virtue in going to someone else and helping their company, helping their goals, helping their dreams come true. And in this industry, you really get to help these patients. You get to be the voice to educate these physicians about a groundbreaking new treatment that extends life. It gives life to these patients. You think about that. What if you stay 20 years? What if you're there for 30 years? You're maxing out your 401k. You're reasonably frugal with your finances. We're talking about putting your kids through college, Christian school, if you want to, private school, if you want to. I'm not saying that it's not going to have challenges as well. I get it. I'm the sole provider for my family. I was single until I was 40, got married. Now I'm a dad. I got 4 kids and they're expensive. I got a big mortgage. I thought, hey, I'm going to do this as a forced saving plan. I'm going to do a 15-year mortgage. I get it. There's expenses. After this podcast, I got to run by Costco. I've been working hard today with my full-time sales job. And I jump in the studio and now I'm going to Costco. And it's expensive. It's hard. But I believe that this is an industry. It's not the only one, but it's one in which you can save lives. The other that I mentioned is in that area of diagnostics, genetic testing in cancer. You might be selling a test Maybe it's MRD for minimum residual disease, or maybe it's early detection for cancer screening. These jobs pay well. They're a great path for many of you. I know pharma reps who play the long game and they are multi-millionaires. They're not executives. They're not VPs. They're field reps who found the right company. They perform consistently. And then sometimes they were part of a startup that got bought out and they poured in money. I know one guy who has 4 houses. I know someone else, he manages a team and he's got a huge property, horses. I know a couple guys who have like $2 million homes in Dallas and Florida. And you look and you say, well, that doesn't seem like if you start out with a base salary of like 165, but you have to add it up. Then you have your target bonus at 35%. Okay, that's approximately another $58,000. Then you get your car allowance. That's another $10K. Your expense budget, your annual RSU grant. If you want to keep learning, get your MBA. A lot of companies will pay money towards that. When I was with Foundation Medicine, Sanofi, J&J, they all paid for me to get courses done at like Harvard and Johns Hopkins. I didn't finish the MBA, but I did take courses. And think about that. That's your total compensation of like $263,000. So keep that in mind. Your top performers in pharma can make $400,000 in oncology. That's not most reps. That's your top performers in a specialty like oncology who can make that money. But there are other paths to keep growing, different roles you can get into, like CAM, key account managers. You can move up in leadership. You can sometimes take a position like in marketing that may not pay more necessarily, but you can move up that corporate ladder. And I know people that are making $3-4 million a year because they have moved up that corporate ladder, and they might be over an entire division. So that can be a path for many of you. If you want to go deeper, if you want to be prepared in the interviews, join us at Medical Sells You. It's rigorous. It's not cheap. Every Monday night, we're on a Zoom call. I'm grilling you. We have courses. We have people come in, give insights. Some of them are hiring managers. Some of them are people who've gone through our program. They're succeeding. But it's a good community. It's not a huge program. Okay, so you'll likely be in a cohort in a class with about 12 people. You will have networked to more people than that. But this program is changing people's lives. Every week it seems that somebody is landing a job. They're making $40K more than they were previously. Sometimes doubling. This week I talked to a guy who's doubled his income. Recently I talked to someone who actually tripled her income. And you can be a part of this. And what's so, important is that you're not just driven by the money. We want to talk about the money. That's why I did this podcast. But it's exciting because you are at the forefront of science and you're giving hope to these patients. Sometimes you will be the one who will launch a drug where there was no hope previously. So if you want to join us, check us out at Medical Sells You. Make sure that you press subscribe, join our program, get a coach, and let me be your guide. Thank you so much for joining Medical Sells You, the podcast. If you're trying to break into medical device or pharmaceutical sales, or maybe you're ready to reinvent yourself into a new specialty like oncology, our program, Medical Sells You, can help.
I'm extremely grateful for Dave Sterrett and his program, Medical Sells You.
I'm now making $60,000 more than I was as a pharmacist.
I highly recommend the program. I just landed an incredible dream job.
Our members come from every background: nurses, pharmacists, teachers, athletes, and they're breaking in fast, averaging $151,875 in 11 and a half weeks. Many are earning over $200K. The industry is changing lives. You can change lives. Check us out. The Medical Sells You. Invest in yourself, and let's get you in the game.